Hello and welcome to the Saturday, July 25th edition of 284 News. I am Britannia Whittle, bringing you the latest out of the British Virgin Islands. Thank you so much for joining us. First up, Premier Dr. Natalia Wheatley says constitutional negotiations between the Virgin Islands and the United Kingdom were constructive. Details in this report. Premier Dr. Natalia Wheatley says recent constitutional negotiations between the Virgin Islands and the United Kingdom were conducted in a constructive spirit, expressing optimism about the progress made during the discussions. Speaking on the Talking Points program, Wheatley said he believes the UK delegation considered the Virgin Islands proposals, noting that officials were already familiar with the territory's recommendations. Wheatley said the next phase of the process will take place in September.
We were able to discuss areas in which we had alignment, areas where we perhaps were not aligned, and but the talks were held in a spirit of constructiveness, a constructive spirit. I think there was a willingness to listen. I believe for BVI team we were able to put forward our views effectively, and everyone, on all accounts, acknowledged that it was a good start to the negotiations. I had, discussion with the minister, and we're looking forward to going to the United Kingdom in September. We're looking at we don't have confirmed dates, but we're looking somewhere around like the third week of September, right, to continue the discussions, and then with a minister who would be in a position to make some decisions. We're waiting to see whether the present minister will remain, as we see that the new Prime Minister of the UK is choosing his cabinet, and he's already chosen a foreign secretary who's Ed Miliband, and we'll wait to see if Ed Miliband will do a reshuffle within the foreign ministry and the foreign office, or whether he'll have his ministers remain.
Responding to questions about recommendations that have not been well received by sections of the public, Wheatley acknowledged the concerns but said his negotiation team had done its best to represent the territory's interests throughout the process.
We've done the best job possible within our abilities to put forward something that we believe is in the best interests of the people of the Virgin Islands. I know persons are laser focused on how they can hold their elected representatives accountable for good performance. That also has to be balanced about our great disruption that can take place, and allowing persons actually the ability to be able to govern and make hard decisions and not have to think about whether there's going to be knee-jerk reactions to any particular decision, and allow persons to evaluate the whole body of work and then be able to make a firm decision based on that.
The constitutional negotiations form part of the ongoing dialogue between the Virgin Islands and the United Kingdom on governance and the territory's constitutional future. Meanwhile, opposition leader Marlon Penn has accused the government of using its parliamentary majority to avoid accountability. Details in this report. Opposition leader Marlon Penn has condemned the government's decision to postpone the House of Assembly's question and answer segment, describing the move as an abuse of power and another attempt to shield ministers from public scrutiny. Penn voiced strong objection during the House of Assembly sitting on Tuesday after Premier and Minister of Finance Dr. Natalia Wheatley successfully moved a motion to rearrange the order paper. The amendment shifted ministerial statements and the opposition's opportunity to question government ministers until after government and public business. With the government holding the majority in the House, the motion was approved. Penn subsequently moved a counter motion, debate on which was expected to continue after the lunch break. He argued that the decision further delays one of the opposition's primary constitutional responsibilities.
We've seen this, Madam Speaker. I've spoken to you about this. I've spoken to the Premier about it. I've spoken in this House extensively. Been postponed for at least 11 months, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this is becoming a norm. We're turning the House of Assembly into an extension of the executive arm of government. It's an abusive practice in this House, Madam Speaker, and this practice has to stop. This motion seeks to rebalance the powers in this House. The opposition has a role to play. The executive has a role to play. All of us have a role to play in this democracy, and each person's role has to be respected, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, if any member of this House, the reality is you're in the government today. You might be in opposition if you're lucky tomorrow. And you have to ensure that the people's business is conducted in a fair and balanced way. This abuse.
Penn also challenged the government's claim that the change was necessary to urgently pass legislation related to the Recovery and Development Agency, RDA. He pointed out that the House had only recently concluded a sitting that began on January 15, arguing that the government had ample opportunity to deal with the legislation before now. Penn accused the government of using its majority to sidestep scrutiny. Premier Wheatley defended the decision, explaining that legislation concerning the RDA had to be dealt with immediately because the agency's board expires next week. He warned that allowing the board's term to lapse would leave the agency without governance while it continues to manage employees and contractual obligations. And with that, we take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Across the Virgin Islands, drivers have trusted VI Motors for generations. For 60 years, we've delivered dependable transportation, expert repairs, and quality parts, all under one roof. As a proud Napa franchise, our parts department carries leading brands like PPG Paints, Magic Accessories, Top Don Diagnostics Tools, Westlake and Goodyear Tires, plus reliable LTH batteries. Everything your vehicle needs to perform at its best. Our expert service department handles maintenance, diagnostics, and repairs you can rely on. And our vehicle sales team offers trusted Toyota and Honda vehicles built for island life. We proudly serve you at 2 locations, our flagship store in Dove's Bottom, Tortola, and our location on Virgin Gorda. From parts to service to sales, we're committed to you every step of the way. VI Motors, service beyond the call, serving the Virgin Islands for 60 years.
Hey girl, you hear about that deal with that bundles?
Yeah, but everybody gatekeeping where I could get the good stuff.
And I really need, cause my stylist
Put me onto a website here, and the inches is not inching, and the bundles, oh my, you're not even bundling. Like, I don't even know what's up.
stylist. Me talking about hair?
What?
You deaf? Yo, I see me talking about hair.
What are you talking about? I confused.
Save up to $1,000 when you bundle your mobile, fiber, or broadband services. Bundle all 3 and receive a free MiFi device on us. That's what's up when you bundle up with CCT. Life Unlimited.
Welcome back. And in politics, at-large aspirant Sydney Rosan says she has no intention of joining the Virgin Islands Party, arguing that the governing party has failed to adequately represent the people of the territory. Details in this report. Political commentator and media personality Sydney Rosan says now is the right time for her to enter elective politics, citing the need for greater unity and improved governance in the Virgin Islands. Speaking on JTV, Rosan explained that although she had intended to contest the 2023 general election, those plans changed following the political upheaval surrounding former Premier Andrew Foy and the release of the Commission of Inquiry report. Rosan said she has chosen to run as an independent at-large candidate because she believes the territory has become deeply divided by party politics. Addressing speculation about her political ambitions, Rosan said she would not shy away from becoming the Virgin Islands' first female premier, but that it is not her priority.
The way the House of Assembly is formed, you have 13 members. I don't know if that's going to go up to 15. I think we're still waiting to see. And it's normally the person that can pull the most members together and form a government and go down to the governor. And I'm going to say that as much ambition as any other party leaders have, or any individual person that will be looking to enter the House of Assembly, I'm bringing all of that same energy. And I too will be looking to pull some of the best people to form a government. That doesn't necessarily mean that I'm doing that to become the premier or whatever, but I want to see a group of people formed that have the best interests of this territory at heart come out on the top next election, so we can move this territory forward truly for the people and not for parties, private interests, and so forth. So will I be trying to form a government out of whoever goes into the House of Assembly next election? You can bet all your money on it that I will be doing so. Do I see myself as the first female premier of the Virgin Islands? I believe in destiny. Whatever is going to happen, I can do it. So I'm not going to back off and say, I don't see myself there. I'm prepared for anywhere that people see me leading them after the next election. And if I don't make it into the House of Assembly, then I don't make it into the House of Assembly. That too is no problem.
When asked whether she would consider joining an established political party, Rosan ruled out becoming a member of the current Virgin Islands party, saying she does not believe the party has represented the people effectively. Rosan also responded to criticisms that many individuals are entering politics because of the benefits provided under the recently approved Greedy Bill. She said if elected, she would seek to renew legislation such as that measure, along with the national health insurance system, arguing that both require attention and reform.
I can look at the salaries and look to revamp anything that is done in the House of Assembly, and I am going to do so. When it comes to things like the Greedy Bill, NHI, there are a lot of other legislations that ought to be laid in the House of Assembly, and whether I'm on the government side or I'm on the opposition side, I will be laying those private member submissions on the table for consideration. Okay, whether it's to retract the Greedy Bill, which I'm going after, NHI, and everything else that is a burden to the people of this territory. I am going to lay private member submissions in the House to fight for the people. That's why I'm going in there. All right? So it doesn't matter if I'm sitting on the government, I'm sitting on the opposition, I'm the people's person on the inside, and I'm going to fight my heart out as usual to get what the people need and what we need as a territory.
She added that she has the full support of her family as she embarks on her campaign for public office. Caregivers supporting persons living with Alzheimer's or dementia now have practical guidance during and after a hurricane or other emergency. More in this report.
The Virgin Islands Alzheimer's Association has collaborated with the Caribbean Center for Development Administration to the publication of a featured article in the Horizon Special Hurricane Edition newsletter. The article, Supporting Loved Ones Living with Dementia Through a Hurricane Season, Calm in the Chaos, was authored by VIAA President and Founder, Edna Williams. Williams explains how significant this practical guidance tool is.
It's extremely significant to prepare yourself as a caregiver or yourself as a family member and the individual, in case of an emergency. So planning ahead, even before the emergency occurs, having the right supplies in place for that emergency, knowing where they are going to actually go, where they're going to feel safe is important before the emergency, and then acting on it when there is the hurricane or even for some people earthquake, knowing where they can go to. And then after the situation, it's important to go back to the regular routine and to find a nice calming way of getting back into the same pace. Because that's what the individual with the dementia, or anyone, really all of us need after a hurricane, is somewhere where we feel safe and where we feel calm and things have a ring or a sense of continuity from what it was. So definitely this is important for those with dementia.
Williams stated that the hurricane season presents unique challenges for vulnerable populations, and the article emphasizes the importance of advanced planning, maintaining routines where possible.
Say at the end of May, we start preparing for the hurricane. So getting, all the emergency supplies, the medication, the doctor's appointments, the safeguards that the individual needs to make them feel safe, getting them together in a to-go bag, getting their favorite games, getting their favorite supplies that they may need or that would make them feel comfortable together, and having definitely the documents that they need, whether it's prescription, doctor's identification, everything together in a to-go bag before. So when when there's a warning that there's a hurricane coming, for that family to know that they have those things together. And even before that also, knowing what their safe routes will be. Will they be staying at home? Have they prepared an area within their home that they can stay safely? Will they be going to a family home? Will they be going to a shelter where they can feel safe? And knowing that in advance is very important. It's a way of keeping the family and the whole family on a plan so that they know what steps to take, when and where, what they're going to be, and what steps they're going to take in order to maintain a safe, calming environment for the individual with dementia and for themselves. Because hurricanes or any disaster can be very disrupting to someone who is in a cognitive decline, and it's very disorienting. So knowing what you're going to do with that individual or with yourself becomes an important part of the planning process. At this point, the way we're trying to get it to be available to them, one is through press release like this. We're planning on trying to get it into the newspaper. We have a meeting next week on the 27th with some persons from CDEMA. So at that point, we're going to look at how we get this information out to the general public so that we can really keep it in mind and have a plan together to safeguard ourselves during and after the hurricane.
The VIAA president said that they are deeply honored to contribute to the Caricad's Horizon Special Hurricane Edition newsletter and extend appreciation to Executive Director Devon Rowe for providing this opportunity to share information that can make a meaningful difference in the lives of caregivers and families across the region.
We're up on another break. Please stay with us.
At Higher BVI, we're not just about business. We're about empowering lives, and that is because we aspire to inspire. By choosing us, you're supporting a company that believes in equal opportunities, diversity, and community growth. Our mission goes beyond profit. It's about providing HR solutions, fostering talent, and leaving a positive impact. Join us in building a better future, a better BVI. Choose Higher BVI, where your support isn't just a transaction, it's a transformation. Together, we're changing lives in these beautiful Virgin Islands.
Across the Virgin Islands, drivers have trusted VI Motors for generations. For 60 years, we've delivered dependable transportation, expert repairs, and quality parts, all under one roof. As a proud Napa franchise, our parts department carries leading brands like PPG Paints, Magic Accessories, Top Don Diagnostics Tools, Westlake and Goodyear Tires, plus reliable LTH batteries. Everything your vehicle needs to perform at its best. Our expert service department handles maintenance, diagnostics, and repairs you can rely on. And our vehicle sales team offers trusted Toyota and Honda vehicles built for island life. We proudly serve you at 2 locations, our flagship store in Dove's Bottom, Tortola, and our location on Virgin Gorda. From parts to service to sales, we're committed to you every step of the way. VI Motors, service beyond the call, serving the Virgin Islands for 60 years.
And in regional news, the Caribbean must urgently transform the way it prepares for disasters by shifting from reactive emergency response to proactive, people-centered risk management. That's according to the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, CDEMA. Details in this report. The Caribbean must urgently rethink its approach to disaster preparedness as climate change, demographic shifts, and emerging social challenges create increasingly complex risks for communities. That's according to the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency. Addressing the agency's annual Comprehensive Disaster Management Conference, CDEMA Executive Director Elizabeth Riley said the region can no longer rely on traditional disaster management modules that focus primarily on responding to emergencies after they occur. Instead, governments and communities must adapt anticipatory risk management and prioritize resilience, preparedness, and sustainable development. She pointed to demographic changes projected by the United Nations Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, which estimates that 1 in 4 Caribbean residents will be age 60 or older by 2050. At the same time, rising crime, migration, and geopolitical pressures are creating new vulnerabilities, while climate-related hazards are becoming more frequent, interconnected, and severe.
Against all of this, a backdrop of economic uncertainty, public health threats, and disruptions to global systems are compounding their impacts and making recovery more complex, but also more prolonged. And we've seen that in many instances in the Caribbean. So it follows that if both our communities and the risks that they face are changing, that our understanding of community resilience must evolve, not only with them, but importantly in anticipation of those changes that are taking place. So the definition of community resilience must change to encompass the capacity to anticipate the changes which are coming, to adapt to uncertainty, which is now very prevalent, to sustain livelihoods, maintain social cohesion, and continue progressing despite the complex and interconnected risks.
Riley also identified a growing concern over the gap between the dissemination of early warnings and the actions taken by communities. Using Hurricane Dorian in the Bahamas as an example, she noted that despite accurate forecasts and clear evacuation notices, many residents chose not to evacuate, highlighting the need to better understand how people perceive risk and respond to disaster warnings.
We have to strengthen leadership, volunteerism, community organizations, and the social cohesion that enables communities to anticipate, adapt, and act together when it matters most. We must also expand our understanding of behavioral science. Why do people make the decisions that they do? What is their perception of the risk? How do they receive early warning messages? Is it as intended by a meteorological service or by the Seismic Research Center? Or are they making their own interpretations on the information that is coming to them and coming to other types of conclusions? And importantly, what are the triggers that are existing and causing persons to take appropriate action? And I raise this, and I just deviate a moment just to tell you a story from one of our participating states. And I can mention, because it was around the Bahamas, and we were discussing and reflecting on what happened in terms of the early warning and the action by populations. And the two things did not necessarily align. And so the Met Service did a brilliant job. Bahamas Met is a brilliant Met Service, I can tell you that. They were fantastic in forecasting what was going to happen, what the storm surge would be like, precipitation amounts. All this was communicated to the population. They knew that Dorian was going to stall. They knew it was going to be a very prolonged impact. And still, evacuation notices that were issued were not adhered to. And so you probably maybe sit in Barbados and say, but why didn't the people move? And that's a real question. And this is what we're actually seeing now in repeated events across the region, where we think we as the Met persons, disaster management practitioners, that we've done a good job, even at the community level, in terms of you going around in your community and spreading the right messages, etc. But then the behavior of individuals sometimes does not reflect a good understanding. So is it in our communication? Is it in their perception of the risk? Is it that they're thinking about a previous event which they were able to ride through okay, and they say, oh, well, it's going to be the same as? We don't know. But the point is that we need to get a better understanding of these things.
The agency is also advocating for a review of community governance structures, questioning whether voluntary-based emergency response system alone remains sufficient to cope with increasingly prolonged. Riley suggested that government should consider integrating community resilience programs into formal public sector structures while continuing to support and recognize the critical contribution of volunteers. Emerging technologies are expected to play a greater role in strengthening disaster preparedness. CDEMA highlighted the use of geospatial analytics, digital twin technology, and the Caribbean Community Risk Information Tool to improve hazard mapping, model future climate scenarios, and prepare communities for emerging threats, including prolonged extreme heat. That's it for today's news roundup. Be sure to follow us for daily news updates at tweet4media.com and like us on Facebook at tweet4media and tweet4mediabvi on Instagram and X. I'm Britannia Whittle. Pleasant viewing.